Emma Carson thought she was going on a simple first date with a charming man named Kyle Rowe, a man who didn't exist, and a night that would become her last. What began as an innocent connection turned into a chilling disappearance that unraveled a dark, calculated trap years in the making. Emma Carson was the kind of person who liked to plan every part of her life. She had routines for everything: her morning coffee, her evening walks, even the way she organized her books by color and size. She wasn't spontaneous, and she rarely took risks. But at 26, after 2 years of being single and watching friends settle down, Emma decided it was time to try something new. Her friends had been nudging her toward online dating for months, and one night, after a glass of wine and some scrolling, she finally gave in. She downloaded a dating app and created a profile. Her bio was short and honest: graphic designer, dog lover, quiet weekends, and thriller novels. She didn't expect much, just a bit of distraction. Within a few days, a profile caught her eye. His name was Kyle Rowe. He was 29, worked in tech consulting, and had a golden retriever named Max. His photos looked warm and natural, smiling by a mountain trail, cooking in a small kitchen, lounging with Max. But it wasn't just the photos. His messages were thoughtful and patient. He asked about her favorite books and what inspired her art. He didn't push for anything too fast. Emma liked that. It felt safe, almost comforting. They messaged for days, slowly moving from the app to text messages. He sent her a song he liked. She shared her favorite thriller author. It was all perfectly normal. It was all designed to be. After 2 weeks of talking, Kyle suggested they meet in person. Dinner somewhere relaxed, he said, maybe with a view. He picked a rooftop restaurant in the Pearl District, known for its quiet ambience and string lights that flickered like stars overhead. Emma agreed, though she felt the usual nerves. She told her best friend Alyssa everything: who she was meeting, where, what time. She even took a screenshot of Kyle's profile and sent it over, just in case, she joked. Alyssa laughed, but both of them knew it was a smart move. That Friday, Emma got ready early. She wore her favorite red blouse and a pair of jeans she always felt confident in. She put on a little mascara, sprayed her light floral perfume, and stared at herself in the mirror. It wasn't just a date, it was a step toward letting someone new in. She took a deep breath, locked her apartment, and walked into the warm summer evening. The last thing she sent was a text to Alyssa at 7:15 p.m. Heading there now. Wish me luck. At 8:12 p.m., Emma's phone sent its final signal from the restaurant's location. After that, it went silent. She didn't text back. She didn't come home. And the warm summer night that had started with hope would quietly turn into something no one was prepared for. In the city, full of lights and laughter, one young woman simply disappeared without a sound, without a trace. The next morning, Emma's absence was immediately noticeable. She was the type to wake early, respond to texts within minutes, and never miss work without notifying someone. When Alyssa noticed there were no messages from her overnight, she assumed Emma had gotten caught up after the date and slept in. But by noon, when Emma still hadn't answered multiple calls or texts, a wave of unease settled in. Alyssa tried calling again, this time leaving a voicemail that cracked slightly with worry. Then she contacted Emma's workplace. They hadn't heard from her either. By p.m., Alyssa drove to Emma's apartment. Her car was still parked outside. The blinds were shut. Knocking on the door led to silence. After trying the property manager and confirming that Emma had not returned home, Alyssa's concern turned into fear. She went to the nearest police station and filed a missing persons report. Because of Emma's routine behavior and the details surrounding her date, police took the case seriously right away. Within hours, officers were canvassing the area, speaking to staff at the rooftop restaurant where Emma was last known to be. The restaurant's manager was cooperative. Security camera footage showed Emma walking in at 7:43 p.m., wearing the red blouse she had described to Alyssa. She smiled at the hostess, was seated in a corner booth, and ordered a glass of wine and a salad. She sat alone for over an hour. No one joined her. At approximately 8:06 p.m., she glanced down at her phone, read a message, paid her bill, and walked out. at 8:14 p.m. That was the last time anyone saw her. Outside, cameras captured Emma stepping onto the sidewalk, but none showed where she went from there. No car picked her up. No one approached her on foot. It was as though she had simply vanished into the night. Police obtained her phone records, but the data stopped just after her last known location. Her phone had either been turned off or destroyed. Officers contacted Kyle Rowe using the number Emma had shared. The call went straight to voicemail. The number was untraceable, registered under a prepaid service with no ID attached. When they contacted the dating app company, they found Kyle's account had been deleted within an hour after Emma's disappearance. The photos used in the profile turned out to be stolen from a travel influencer based in Toronto. There was no real Kyle Rowe. This revelation stunned everyone. Emma, cautious and detail-oriented, had fallen victim to a manufactured identity. There were no red flags, no odd behavior or aggressive messages. Whoever created the profile had studied how to earn trust and move without suspicion. The case turned cold quickly. There was no DNA, no eyewitness, no clear direction to follow. Search parties scoured surrounding neighborhoods, parks, and even the nearby riverbanks. Nothing turned up. Emma's family released statements, begging the public for information. Billboards with her face went up across the city. News channels covered her story, but leads dried up almost as fast as they appeared. Each passing day widened the gap between hope and despair. And somewhere out there, the man behind the profile had vanished just as quickly, leaving behind a silence deeper than anyone expected. As the investigation stretched into its third week, the weight of uncertainty grew heavier. The Portland Police Department assigned more officers to the case, partnering with digital forensic experts to analyze every scrap of information from Emma's online activity. Her dating app usage, message history, and even deleted texts were reconstructed. But everything led back to the same dead end. The carefully crafted profile of Kyle Rowe, a man who had never existed in the first place. The IP address used to create the dating profile was traced to a public Wi-Fi network inside a coffee shop in downtown Portland. Surveillance footage from the time of the account creation was reviewed, but the camera angles didn't capture faces clearly, and the footage was degraded. It showed a figure in a dark hoodie sitting at the back corner, tapping away on a laptop. That person paid cash and never removed their hood. The physical evidence was just out of reach, like a shadow slipping around the corner before it could be grasped. While following up on the dead-end lead, detectives began broadening their scope. They entered Emma's case into a national missing persons database and flagged the dating app account across federal systems. Within a week, they were contacted by a detective in Colorado who had worked on a nearly identical case the previous year. A woman named Jenna Lake, 28, had gone missing after meeting a man online named Caleb Hart. Like Emma, Jenna had told her friends everything about the date. Like Emma, she vanished after arriving alone to a public venue. And like Kyle Rowe, Caleb Hart had no digital footprint beyond the dating profile. Another case surfaced from Northern California. This time it was Lily Monroe, 25, last seen entering a riverside cafe after arranging a date with someone named Daniel Cres. Again, no trace of her was found. Same pattern, different name, different city. The resemblance among the cases was chilling. All three women had met seemingly ordinary men online who disappeared the moment the victim did. None of the suspects were real. Each name was built on fake identities using stolen photos and burner phones. It was methodical, rehearsed, and terrifyingly effective. A task force was formed to investigate the possible serial pattern. Analysts combed through data on dating app disappearances across the country, searching for similar cases. Slowly, a profile began to form, not of a specific man, but of someone who planned these abductions with precision. He used rotating IP addresses, often logging in from libraries or cafes with cash-only purchases. His online communication was always measured, polite, and never too invasive. He didn't stand out. That was his greatest weapon. Detectives believed they were dealing with someone highly organized and deeply familiar with how to exploit both technology and trust. The theory was clear now. These weren't impulsive crimes, they were traps. Long-term, calculated traps, set by someone who knew exactly how to appear safe while remaining invisible. Emma was not the first. And unless he was found, she likely wouldn't be the last. The break in the case came unexpectedly and miles away from where Emma had disappeared. A seasoned hiker named Paul Renner was exploring a remote section of forest near Mount Rainier in Washington state when he came across an old, rundown structure, half hidden by overgrowth and surrounded by thick trees. It looked like it hadn't been touched in years. The door was broken, barely hanging on its hinges, and the windows were covered with grime. Out of curiosity, Paul stepped inside and what he saw made him freeze in his tracks. The cabin's interior was small and dimly lit by the light filtering through cracks in the roof. Dust coated most surfaces, but there were signs of recent use. A rusted cot with torn bedding sat in the corner. A table, covered in notebooks and old maps, stood in the center of the room. But what grabbed Paul's attention was a wall covered with photographs, printed emails, and handwritten notes. Faces of young women stared back at him, smiling selfies, graduation pictures, snapshots from social media. Their names were written beside each image, along with details like morning jog 6:45 a.m., favorite coffee shop 4th and Pine, and dog park visits Tuesdays. Paul stumbled back and called the local sheriff's office immediately. When investigators arrived, it didn't take long to realize the significance of the discovery. Among the photos was one of Emma Carson, wearing the same red blouse she had worn on her last night. Her file on the wall was the most detailed, indicating she had been watched for weeks before her disappearance. Her full name, address, social media handles, and even floor plan sketches of her apartment were found in one of the notebooks, but that wasn't all. In a hidden compartment beneath the floorboards, investigators found a collection of personal items: Emma's phone case, a bracelet that belonged to Jenna Lake, and a worn wallet with Lily Monroe's driver's license. All of it had been stored with chilling care. It confirmed without a doubt that the same person was behind the disappearances. The question that remained was, where was he now? The cabin had been outfitted with rudimentary surveillance gear. Old cameras were hidden in the corners, some still functioning. There was a map on the wall with multiple pins, marked in several states, suggesting potential future targets or past locations. Whoever had stayed there had left in a hurry half-eaten food, a mug of coffee long since dried up, and a still-warm generator in the back, suggested they'd only vacated recently. But they were gone. Forensic teams swarmed the area, collecting fingerprints, DNA, and any clues that might lead to identification. The most promising lead came from a single partial fingerprint on a camera lens. It was enough for a match. The name that came up was Ryan Archer, a former military contractor with expertise in surveillance and tracking. He had been discharged years earlier after a misconduct investigation and had since vanished from employment records, public listings, and even tax filings. He had effectively erased himself. Though the discovery of the cabin brought a wave of horror, it also brought answers. Emma's disappearance was no longer a mystery. The trap had been real, and the man behind it was no ghost. He had a name, and now, he had left a trail. The name Ryan Archer changed the course of the investigation. Unlike the aliases he used online, this was a real person, a shadow from the past with skills that made him uniquely dangerous. Archer had served 8 years in the military as a surveillance and tracking specialist. After his discharge, he vanished from public life. He held no official residence, filed no taxes, and used no traceable bank accounts. It was as if he'd trained for exactly this, to live beyond the reach of systems designed to find people. With the suspect identified, law enforcement across multiple states launched a coordinated manhunt. Old records were pulled. Surveillance from airports, bus stations, and traffic cams in regions near the cabin were reviewed, but Archer was always one step ahead. Every move he made was careful, disconnected, and likely pre-planned months in advance. He had relied on cash, burner phones, and forged documents. He knew how to blend in with any crowd and disappear before anyone realized he was even there. The deeper the investigation went, the more unsettling the findings became. Archer had spent years building patterns, tracking behaviors, and studying vulnerabilities. He had selected his targets based on predictable habits: those who were active on social media, those who lived alone, those who were open about their dating lives. His online profiles were masterfully created, each one tailored to the personality of the victim. Emma liked art and nature, so Kyle Rowe was gentle and outdoorsy. Jenna was into tech, so Caleb Hart had been witty and intelligent. Lily loved travel, so Daniel C. Arias's posted fake photos from around the world. The trap always looked different, but the structure underneath was the same. Emma's case became the centerpiece of the investigation, a warning sign amplified by national media. News outlets called it the first date killer, while experts debated how someone so skilled had managed to operate unnoticed for so long. The dating apps involved came under fire for lacking identity verification protocols. Public pressure forced several platforms to introduce new safety features: photo verification, emergency location sharing, and background check integration. Emma's name became a part of this shift, turning tragedy into reform. Still, one question haunted everyone: where was Ryan Archer now? There were unconfirmed sightings, one in Arizona, another in Idaho, but none led to him. The task force believed he had gone deeper underground, possibly out of the country. Some theorized he had built another hidden residence, ready to start the cycle again, but for now, there were no new victims. The discovery of the cabin had interrupted him, exposed him, and possibly forced him into hiding. Emma Carson's story remained a painful reminder of how danger could wear a friendly face. The last place she was seen waiting patiently in a rooftop restaurant was no longer just a location on a timeline. It marked the edge between trust and manipulation, between hope and horror. Her case would never be forgotten, not only because of what was lost, but because it changed how people approach strangers behind screens. The first date had been a final trap, but it had opened the world's eyes to a truth many never imagined.